Throughout the years, Stranger Things has always made us believe in one thing: the bigger picture, convincing us that everything has a meaning, that the Duffer Bros have had everything planned out from day one. But despite that, leading up to the final episode, the series began to feel like a cardboard cutout of what it once was. But the question is, was it all worth it in the end? Or did it succumb to its own failure? But we can't really talk about the bad until we talk about what made Stranger Things so good. Stranger Things was groundbreaking in many ways. The series wasn't just another coming-of-age sci-fi fantasy, but had something for everyone. With a mix of Stephen King's horror and suspense, and Spielberg's mystery and childhood charm, it delivered us with addictive storytelling, incredible music, and 80s vibe. The series not only became a late-night watch, but a portal into another dimension, letting you escape into the world of telekinesis, corrupt government, tight jeans, and we ate that shit up. The series, created by two twin brothers, Matt and Ross Duffer, who came up with the idea for the series, originally titled Montauk, was rejected over a dozen times before Netflix eventually picked it up. Originally pitched as an anthology, meaning different stories each season. They were going to make a second season in a totally different time period than the first. Basically, different cast, different plot lines, and different characters. Since the first season literally became so huge and people loved it, Netflix quickly shut down the idea of an anthology. As soon as it hit Netflix, it destroyed records, becoming Netflix's biggest and best show to date. For those who either haven't seen the show or just need a quick refresh, here's a very quick summary. The series takes place in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana, as we follow the seemingly normal town and families whose worlds get flipped upside down after the strange disappearance of Will Byers in November 1983, who, after biking home one day from playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends, mysteriously vanishes. Investigations start into his disappearance. Will's friend Dustin, Lucas, and Mike start their own investigation, and whilst out on a search for Will, they stumble across a small, cold girl seeking help. So the boys decide to hide her in Mike's basement, where despite the little language that she knows, they figure out that her name is 11.
That's your name? 11. Okay. Well, my name's Mike.
And soon discover that she possesses specific powers, like telekinesis. Meanwhile, Will's mother, Joyce, is convinced that Will has been taken by a creature and that Will is communicating with her through the house's electricity. With more and more mysterious abductions taking place, we learn that there is definitely nothing normal about Hawkins, that everything can be tracked down to 11 and a nearby lab. They have not just been doing experiments, but have opened a door to another dimension, which they name the Upside Down. And throughout the show, we learn more about what the Upside Down truly is, and follow a group of individuals as they try and stop the evil from erasing the very existence of everyone in Hawkins. Season 1 kicked off with some of the best writing, world building, and character development a series could ask for. It understood exactly what it wanted to be and how to go about doing that. The Duffer Brothers, after years of rejection, finally did it, and it blew up.
Stranger Things.
Bigger than anyone could have imagined. It was a success, kickstarting the careers of the cast, and just when you thought it couldn't get bigger, season 2 came, then season 3 and season 4, growing in popularity each time, but also becoming such a force that it may have forgot what it once was. I have always loved Stranger Things. Every time a season would come out, I would sit down and watch it with my family. And man, was that good. Seeing all those familiar faces trying to solve the mystery, I could care less about the few flaws the series had, as in my eyes the series could never go wrong. So season 5, the most controversial season of all. The final season was split into 3 parts. Season 5 Volume 1 being released November 26th, Volume 2 being released Christmas, and the final episode being released New Year's Eve. Volume 1 started out very similar to the other seasons, picking up shortly after where the last season left off and catching up with all the characters. It did start picking up heat for how annoying and cringy some of the characters were, and the rough visual effects, but despite all that, Volume 1 ended on the highest rated episode to date. So despite being criticised for its acting and kind of cringy writing, it managed to lead to a somewhat satisfying end, really carried by the twist of Will's character and the anticipation of what may happen next. Over the years, the Duffer Brothers have said that they've known how the series is going to end. For as long as I can remember, we knew what the final scene was going to be, and we always felt confident in that. It provided us with a North Star. Even as we continued to work on the show and you get fan feedback, we always felt like this was the right end and the inevitable end. But Season 5 Volume 2 really didn't make us feel like that. As it stands, without the final of this show, it really looked as though it took a turn for the worst. I've categorized this into a few things: writing, acting, atmosphere and CGI, and the curse. Stranger Things went from a show that was actually terrifying to something that has become a mellowed out version of itself. Comparing this season to previous seasons, despite a huge budget, the visual style has dropped dramatically. The grittier, dark tones have been replaced for Netflix lighting and traditional Netflix camera work, and most importantly, overuse of green screen and the lack of practical effects. From a series that had such unique world building, scenes that would have once been mysterious and grotesque, and now colourful and blurred. Before you could feel the atmosphere in the scene, now everything just kind of feels a bit rushed. They purely just don't put enough time into the world building like they used to, and instead try and fill the episode with rushed storylines. Throughout the show, there's always been one constant question: what is the Upside Down? Seasons 1 and Season 2 did well to keep this their centre focus, but as the seasons have progressed, the main storyline has been bombarded by unnecessary plots. And that is all because of the writing. Season 5 Volume 2 has been heavily criticised for the writing, having some of, if not the worst writing throughout the whole series, with its plot inconsistencies, cringy lines, and decision to sideline its main characters, destroying its now golden character Will, which they had built so much of importance in the first half of Season 5, leaving his arc to rot. It started to feel like some sort of parody of itself, and what made it even more frustrating is the fact that we know that they can write good stuff and entertaining stuff, being comedic, mysterious, and absolutely terrifying. Turning characters that were meant to be comic relief to just outright annoying, leading to you, instead of rooting for the good guys, you're almost praying for them to die. In Season 5 Volume 2, one of the plot lines is how Vecna is kidnapping kids to corrupt them and use them in his plot to merge the human world and his dark dimension, the Abyss, allowing him to reshape reality. In doing so, putting the kids in a false reality in his mind. One of these kids is Mike and Nancy's sister, Holly Wheeler, who whilst in this false reality, stumbles across Max, who after nearly dying last season got stuck there. Most of Season 5 is spent watching these two try and escape Vecna's mind. Tensions are building, Will uses his power, you know, they're just there, they can see it, they're right there. Oh. Okay. Yeah, let's just have a conversation for the next, 20 minutes. Man, if I was not screaming at this point, if I was not sat there screaming like, run. One of the other flaws that is not just in Season 5 but throughout this whole show is the fact that the Duffer Brothers are just so scared of killing off any of their main characters. This is probably the only show I have ever watched that every single lead character has survived right till the last episode. I generally don't believe this has ever happened in a sci-fi series before, but what they basically do, however, is bring in a victim character. Each season there will be a character whose sole purpose is to die. Barb, Bob, Billy, and Eddie.
Sorry, I'm late, sweetheart.
With the others, despite how many times they should have died, just don't. That as a viewer leads you to believe that no matter what happens, they will be okay. Ultimately leading to barely any stakes for the main characters, as you know that they're probably going to be alright. With Season 5 being a perfect example of this, because there are just too many characters, man. Literally, at some points, it's looking like a whole damn classroom. In some ways, leaving all the characters alive till the final episode does build tension because you know that obviously something's gonna happen. But Season 5 be looking crazy. You're telling me all these people survived? The Mind Flare, Vecna, all that shit. These people all survived? Okay, that's crazy, man. The acting. Now you can't really blame the actor if the foundation in which what they're portraying is not necessarily the best, but what we have seen in Season 5 is more than just the lack of good writing, but also lack of energy. Now don't get me wrong, some of the characters and acting has been amazing. Steve and Dustin in particular really stand out to me, and before you make fun of Millie Bobby Brown, yes, she may have got a little filler, a little work done, but she still has been serving this season, and in all honesty kinda needs to serve more. She's just hanging around in the back like some sort of side character now, which just doesn't make sense. But there have been a few performances in which people have said the actor has just forgotten how to act. Now one thing that has severely impacted the show, which I have not mentioned yet, is the length in which this show has been on air. For those who have already picked up on the fact that this show has 5 seasons and has been running for almost a decade, with the first 3 coming out just over a year apart, with Season 4 coming nearly 2.5 years after Season 3, and now with Season 5 being released not 1, not 2, but over 3 years later. This is due to COVID and the writers' strikes. What it does mean is the cast have gotten older. The actors who were once playing 10 to 11-year-olds are now in their 20s, still playing 15-year-olds. And what we have seen is some of these child stars don't seem as impressive as they once were, leading the internet to troll the out of some of these performances. But before we can get onto whether the show ended with a bang or all over its legacy, it felt as though history might have been repeating itself. Game of Thrones was a series on HBO running from 2011 to 2019. The show became famous for its realistic, often brutal, portrayal of the medieval lifestyle, well-written storylines, and quickly became a global phenomenon. A series that could not go wrong. Until it did. When the final season of Game of Thrones came along in April 2019, it was regarded as one of the worst series endings ever. Rushed storylines, poor pacing, unsatisfied characters, destroying years of unique world building, and tricking you that there was a purpose for everything. Do you see the similarities? Like Game of Thrones, Stranger Things quickly became a global phenomenon, and in all honesty, probably too big for its own good, as it was never meant to be this big, in which the brothers have openly acknowledged. We're a lot more confident and knowledgeable than we were back then. But there are all these other added pressures now. It feels like there's the Iris Sauron on you. A lot of people watching, lots of expectations, a lot of money is being spent. So, how was the final? The last episode of Stranger Things was a very long episode at 2 hours, which is insane for an episode of TV. As a final goes, it was definitely not the worst in the history of TV show finals. Nowhere near as bad as Game of Thrones, so I guess the show did at least avoid that curse. If I have to explain it, I know this sounds really stupid, but imagine you had a cup of tea, but it hasn't been brewing for that long, right? You'll drink it because it will satisfy you and you're thirsty, but at the end of the day, it's just not strong enough for you. Some people may like a weak tea, but other people may not. And that is how I feel about this final. Some people really liked it and other people really don't. As for my thoughts, it wasn't as satisfying as I know it could have been. By the hour and a half point, it just started really getting slow. I don't think we really needed that. We could have just shown the characters what they were doing like in a quick little cutscene. I don't think you need another half an hour to just drag on to the eventual conclusion that 11 might still be alive. I understand why they did it, because obviously it gives you more time with the characters after what happened. I think it did an alright job in closing the story in a believable way. Like, it wasn't something where you thought, oh, they'll just come back from this again. It was, okay, this is probably the end. In my opinion, I do feel there were more things I didn't like than I did, which is really annoying because I do like this show. A lot of the criticism that has been going around is very much the same in what I've been feeling. Most importantly, missing a bunch of lore that they've put into the show themselves and they haven't even acknowledged it. We have to talk about the lack of demogorgons, demodogs. One of the things that they do in the final is they go and defeat Vecna. They go and try and kill Vecna in his world, in the Abyss. And this is where Vecna and all his creatures, the stuff has been coming down to Hawkins and killing people. This is where they live. Tell me why, when they go to this place, that there is none of those things except from Vecna and the Mind Flare. There are no demogorgons. There are no creatures that have been literally doing his work for him. They're nowhere to be seen. Yet we have Vecna trying to battle his way through like 30-odd cast members at this point because the show has so many characters, and yet he doesn't think to be like, oh yeah, let me just summon my demo dogs. The thing that makes it even worse, obviously, because this has had a lot of criticism and people are like, first ever thing that you brought into the show that was meant to represent the scary thing is not even there. But their response to this, instead of just, kind of acknowledging it, made the whole thing even worse. So the question was, another question I had that other people had been asking, is once they get into the Abyss, where are all the creatures? Where are all the demogorgons, the demodogs, the bats? Are they hiding? And Matt Duffer replied, mainly it's just that Vecna was not expecting this sneak attack on his home turf. Never in a million years could he have imagined that. That they're somewhere. We obviously discussed having a demo battle on the top of the Mind Flare battle, but why does he need demos when the Mind Flare is this giant thing and that can attack him? He doesn't need his little ant army to attack. He's going to take care of this himself. If you recall, you see Henry wandering this planet in season 4, but at some point in his journey he does see a demo far in the distance. But it's not like they're just hanging out in little huts. There's not like a giant civilization of demos up there. Aren't they just going to be around there anyway? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it really doesn't make any sense. It was just Vecna and the Mind Flare and he died. Absolutely decapitated. I really have to reiterate, it did drag on, man. I remember my mum the other side of the room being like, how long's left? And then we looked and it was 40 minutes. And we were like, no way, there's not 40 minutes left. Okay, they killed him. 11 died. They all got back. 40 minutes left. Just to give us a theory that 11's alive. I did say earlier in this video, before watching the final, that keeping all the characters alive made you believe that obviously someone was going to die. Now, apart from 11, who we don't even know if she really died, because at the end of the day they still don't seem to kill anyone off, no one died, which is absolutely insane. How did these people survive? How did they? Nancy, she should have died, man. Like, she was so close to dying. And they got me as well, because I thought she was going to die. And then 2 seconds later, boom. She's not. Okay. The most disappointing thing is that there were so many good theories. That's good. That's why they wrote all this. They had this plan. Like, that makes sense now. And then it's not true. You should have just got some of these TikTokers to write this script, because honestly, the stuff that they were pulling out was good. Ultimately, no matter what the Duffer Brothers would have done, it wouldn't have satisfied everyone. The series started as a project that the brothers poured their heart into, and before long it became a monster of a series. Despite all the criticisms of this series, it was nowhere near unwatchable. Yes, they may have had cringy scenes, and things that didn't quite make sense, but the series, like Game of Thrones, will go down in history, if not for the story but the cultural impact alone. I will always remember this show for the memories I've had with it. Rest in peace, Stranger Things. Well, it's not actually the end. So a few years ago, the Duffer Brothers created a play, Stranger Things: The First Shadow, which premiered in London in 2023. The play is a prequel set in Hawkins in 1959, primarily focusing on young versions of Joyce, Jim Hopper, and Bob Newby, and new student Henry Creel. We also have the Netflix spin-off series, Tales from 85, which is to be released next year. The brothers were adamant that they wanted an animated series inspired by the 80s cartoons. This is going to be set between the events of season 2 and season 3, but not much is known about the actual story. They're also working on a live-action spin-off series, which is in early development. And that is ultimately it. So Stranger Things is not completely dead. There is going to be a spin-off, live-action spin-off, but they have said that they've done everything they've wanted to do with the Upside Down. So whether it be related to that, who knows. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this different type of video. I really want to do these more, like with a green screen, and be in the world and kind of dive into it a bit more. I hope you all had an amazing Christmas and New Year. Let me know down below your thoughts on the series and the final. Thank you so much for 60,000 subscribers. Please like, comment, and I will see you in my next video.